It's 1 o'clock, and I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Mansfield Town University Relations Committee to order. This is our October 10th, 2023 meeting. So the first item on the agenda is an opportunity for the public to address the committee. Is there somebody here who wishes to address the committee?
Yes, I would like to.
Mr. Kessel.
You have a letter in your folder of my disappointment with regard to the Whitney House. And I had understood the town was requesting the university to go through the EIE process. And I'm just curious what happened with that effort.
So, would you like me to answer, Madam Mayor?
Quickly, yes.
Yes, so we did not, the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission did not request that the university go through the EIE process, but they did recommend items for when, if and when it gets demolished, or how to approach that, and then moving forward, planning for and budgeting for historic preservation of buildings.
Yeah, I'm disappointed, and as you can see from my letter, I'm disappointed with the university's treatment of a lot of the town's historic structures.
Mr. Kessel, I think if you look at the council's minutes, I don't remember exactly what night we did this, you can find the joint letter that the town and that the council and the Planning and Zoning sent to the university regarding this building.
And,
okay, the next item on our agenda is to welcome a new member. Karen, would you like to introduce our new member?
Who is our new member from you?
Nathan first.
Well, Nathan's not a member. He's here as a public person joining the meeting. He's
Susanna Cohen, I believe it's a new member.
Yes, Ms. Cohen.
who is
Well,
a town new member. She just happens to work at the library.
No, Ms. Cohen, I know is a town new member, but I don't know who Mr. First is.
Okay, but he's not a member of the committee. He's just here for public comment for this one meeting.
All right, then after Mr. Kessel made his public comment, is there anybody else who wishes to make public comment?
I guess that's my
Nathan.
opportunity to say hello. So, yes, I'm Nathan First. I live in 1924 Stores Road and have been vice president here at the University of Connecticut, and formerly before that, the director of undergraduate admissions since 2011. Have been a longstanding member of the Mansfield community and a proud one at that. Recently, my portfolio expanded to include areas of student life, though not all of student affairs. And so wanted to join you all today and to make myself familiar with some of these efforts, as not only am I interested in continuing to ensure support of our students, both on campus and off campus at the university, but talk with you about ongoing issues and challenges associated with the university students that we have in the community. So it's a topic of personal interest as well as professional interest for me. So I just wanted to come and introduce ourselves. And you know that there's been a lot of attention in the news recently about the off-campus student services offices, and John and I have had extensive conversation about that, and thinking about his transition into the directorship of the Care and Concern team, which is also very important work at the university. Myself and our provost, Dan DeLeva, are having deliberate conversations on along the lines of ensuring that all of these services continue. And John has agreed very graciously to continue to engage with you and to engage with landlords and others as we make this transition. So happy to answer any questions if there are any, but first and foremost, just wanted to say hello.
Could you tell me what the actual structure of this position is, what the communication lines are, does a person who in the community call you if there's a loud party? How does this work?
John, I don't know if you would want to comment on what our current plan is. I know we're working on longer term plans, so.
Wait a
Absolutely.
minute. Let me interrupt. This thing gets us off the order of our agenda. Let's hold this off for later.
Yep.
I opened this discussion as part of a welcoming of a new member, and so that's helpful, but we'll come back to this. Ms. Cowan is our new town appointee. Ms. Cowan, would you like to introduce yourself?
I don't really have any more comments to add than in the past, and I'm happy to be here. As we've discussed and I've discussed with our co-chairs, do happen to work at UConn, but as Nathan just expressed, a longtime resident of Mansfield and happy to be here wearing that hat. So thank you for welcoming me, and I look forward to learning about this committee and the work we do. So thank you.
All right, since there are two, Kara?
I did want to add that we had previously had the Vice President of Student Affairs, Michael Gilbert, as a member of this committee. So we do need to fill a vacancy in regard to that. So we will ultimately have another person in that role serving on this committee.
Okay.
We're not ready to report on anything at this moment.
All right, so for the benefit of our new members, I thought we should go around and everybody introduce themselves, and I'm going to do it based on what's on my screen. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Paul Lachel. I'm a longtime resident. I've been in Mansfield since 1952, and I'm a chair of planning and zoning and a poultry expert.
John, you want to introduce yourself?
Certainly. John Armstrong, Interim Director for Student Care and Concern at the University of Connecticut and Associate Dean of Students. Been at UConn since early 2000s.
Brian?
Susanna and I probably don't need much in introductions. I worked at the university libraries for 27 years. We overlapped there quite a bit. And the only thing I can add to that is that I've been on the town council for the last 2 years, and I'm making a run this year as well.
Ryan?
Hi, I'm Mansfield's town manager. It's been my honor and privilege to be the town manager for very nearly 3 years.
Sean?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, Susanna. I'm Sean Bassington from UConn. I'm the University Landscape Architect and Director of Site Planning. I'm also a UConn alum and a resident of Mansfield since 2014.
And a very active member of the Downtown Partnership. Dale? You're muted, Dale. Still muted.
How's
that? There we go.
Okay. Dale Rose. I'm a longtime member of Mansfield. I moved here in 2005 and recently retired from the Department of Dramatic Arts. And I'm a community member on this committee and enjoy working with everyone else that's here.
Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kaufman. I am the Director of Planning and Development for about a year right now. And prior to that, I was involved with Parks and Natural Resources Planning, as well as Inland Wetlands. And I've lived in town since 1999.
Kara?
We know each other really well as well, Susanna and I.
Okay. All right, Sergeant Merrill?
I'm Sergeant Merrill with the Connecticut State Police, and I am the Mansfield's resident sergeant. I've been down here for about 1.5 years now.
And Margaret?
Hi, Susanna. I'm Margaret Chady. I'm the administrator for this committee, but I work in the town manager's office on communications. and also for the superintendent of schools doing communications work.
Okay, and I am Tony Moran. I'm the mayor of Mansfield. I've been on the town council since 2009. I was one of those awful graduate students who lived on Hunting Lodge Road. Cat and I had large parties, but I've been in town since 1965. So I have watched the development of these relationships between the town and the university for many, many years. This is an important committee, and I hope it continues to function and to be successful because it has made some very important changes over time. So the next item on our agenda is approval of the August 8th minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the August 8th minutes.
Brian moves, Kara seconds. Although, any comments or corrections? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, it looks like all voting members have voted yay, so it's unanimous. Now we have Town of Mansfield development updates with Jennifer and Brian. So who wants to go first?
I'll let Jen read this one or do this one. I gotta provide Cynthia's update here in a minute. So.
Okay, so there continues to be a lot of activity in terms of development, mainly in the Four Corners area. So on September 5th, the Villages at Four Corners was approved. And then on September 18th, 497 Middle Turnpike was approved. The Villages at Four Corners is 116 units. 497 Middle Turnpike is 262 units. The Villages has about 12,256 square feet of commercial and retail space. The public hearing for the hub at King Hill Road, the hub at Mansfield is what it's being called, closed on October 5th. And the Planning and Zoning Commission has directed staff to write a motion of approval. Eagleville Green, which is the 42 unit mixed income development on South Eagleville Road, they have their zoning permit and they have broken ground. Their financing should close shortly. And let's see, we do have a high density housing moratorium. I think I might have discussed that at the last meeting. So there is one or two, actually two developments that are in process that are not subject to that high density moratorium. And that is 541 Middle Turnpike, 84 units, and 555 Middle Turnpike, that's 36 units. Both of them, they're two separate developments in two separate zones, but they are the same developer that is coming in. Just a non-development is we are doing the Northwest Mansfield Vision and Strategy Plan. We will be having a public meeting on November 9th. There will be a survey. I will send the survey out, and I'll include that in the chat, and I will be sending that out to all of you. Our consultant, FHI Studio, has reached out to most of you, I would think, in this group to try to set up either a small group interview or participate in one of our focus groups. So I think that is about it.
Brian, do you want to add to that?
No, I think Jen knocked it out of the park.
All right, Mansfield, we got any questions for, yes, John?
Jennifer, I just want to thank you for the contact for the standards at Four Corners. I will reach out to them. We do have an off-campus housing fair scheduled for November 9th from 10 to 2. And I'm going to reach out to the standards so they can be part of that process and engage in leasing up with students. Thank you.
Mr. Coleman, Brian.
Any idea on the groundbreaking for 497 and the other one on Storrs Road?
I do not have an idea. Well, right now they still need to come in and get a zoning permit, and they have not submitted their zoning permit. So once we get their zoning permit, then they will need to get a building permit, and then we'll know the schedule better at that time.
Thank you.
Susanna?
Sorry, it's the double click. I was unable to make the recent meeting that I know had to do with traffic addressing the traffic issues, particularly on South Eagleville, if I recall. I was wondering if someone could quickly, without taking too much of the time of this meeting, address quickly fill me in on the sort of context of this very rapid development and its impact in terms of measures that are being taken by the town to address that, which feels to me sort of a critical piece to sort of safety concerns in the area. So it's just.
Are you talking about South Eagleville or North Eagleville?
Really both, but if South, I know that there was a recent meeting about South that I was not able to attend, and so I want to take a lot of time, but it would be helpful to me to understand the sort of gist of that.
Ryan, Jennifer, who wants to
Go for it,
handle?
Jen.
So the recent meeting later, it was in late summer, I think it was late August actually, was about South Eagleville Road. And that is actually, a year or so ago, we got a community challenge grant from the Department of Economic and Community Development to improve, to do infrastructure improvements along South Eagleville Road. And those include updating the sewer pump station because of the South Eagleville Green, which is the development that is being developed by the nonprofit arm of the Housing Authority. There will be the sidewalk will be widened. It will be a multi-use trail, and then there will be some traffic calming put in terms of medians, some rectangular rapid flashing beacons, things like that. So that's what that meeting was about. They are studying roundabouts at Maple Road, but that is not part of this particular project.
And
Isn't there also a traffic light going up at the corner of Separatist?
Yes. That is not part of, that wasn't part of this meeting, but that I believe there is, yes.
Can I ask a very specific question? And this isn't as irrelevant to this meeting as it may appear. Very specific question: are they connecting the sidewalks so that there will not be a gap between Maple Road and Separatist?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure of that. I just, as a general comment, and I think this very much speaks to what this committee cares about, this very rapid increase of density of housing, in addition to what our downtown has done to the increase of traffic in the region. It has been noticeable. I would say the number of situations I come across as a driver moving through town, where I feel that young people's lives are in danger, both in the K through 12 range and also at the student age, where I often feel like it's a tragedy waiting to happen. And I don't mean to be bleak, but I'm very, very concerned about the impact of all this housing on the safety of all of our young people up through college age.
Well, the other piece of this is the sidewalk that should go from the towers to Four Corners. And we continue to look for funding for that because it is a multi-million-dollar project, which we need to have outside funds for. But the sidewalks that form the perimeter of the campus where people run, that loop is going to be closed by some of these projects. And the other goal is to allow people from Glen Ridge to walk all the way to the downtown on safe sidewalks.
Meaning the loop will be closed in terms of there will be sidewalks all along that area. And the missing link is just that portion on 195, which is very critical. And I think Ryan and I are very aware of that.
Tony, can I make a comment?
Thank you for that. I very much appreciate it.
I'm not sure who spoke, but whoever, Ryan?
Yeah, I'd like to, say something about Ms. Cohen's concerns. I agree that every year traffic is such a nuisance. It's hard to get from one end of the town to the other end of town. It's increasing year by year, and I don't believe we can put another car on the highways.
That was Paul making noises over here. Can you see me, Tony?
Yes, I'm sorry, Paul. Hey, Paul, I don't know if you can do it, but if you can use the raise your hand feature on the reactions button, that would help. Go ahead.
So,
but interrupt if I don't see you.
I just want to make a general comment about traffic. And that is that as we move multifamily apartments closer to the university, paradoxically, traffic can be reduced because people won't be driving as far to get to campus. So now none of these projects have been built yet, so the traffic cannot be blamed on them. And the traffic may actually get better as we bring people closer to the university and they don't need to make commutes into campus.
The other change that may be helpful is that WRTD, our regional transit organization, has taken over the Yukon bus system. So there is some hope that they will direct their buses in ways that will enable residents of these larger developments to take buses onto campus rather than driving there.
And just real quick on that, Mayor, I know as of even earlier today, I was hearing that WRTD has been approached by the property owners, these new properties going online, to have those conversations. So they are actively looking at what the new developments would mean in terms of stops, both I think on 44 and 195.
Okay. Any further comment on development? All right, downtown partnership.
A few updates on Cynthia's behalf in her absence. I know she'd want to put out a big thank you to everybody involved in a very successful 20th annual Celebrate Mansfield Festival. I think, after the lull of COVID, it looks like they were estimating attendance this year 3,500 to 4,000, which is back up kind of around the high watermark of the pre-COVID times. So that was great to see. Obviously, the weather leading up to the event was pretty bleak, but it cooperated just enough and for long enough that we were able to do it, which was much appreciated for Mother Nature. We had 80 booths representing Mansfield businesses, community organizations, Yukon departments, and a variety of other student organizations and programs. So I know Cynthia would also want to be sure not just to thank the town, but to thank all the representation from Yukon that went into making this a successful event. That's in the rear view. So coming up, there's the downtown stores trick or treat. That's going to be the Saturday before Halloween. So that's the 28th from 3 to 5. It'll be rain or shine. New this year, I know this has been discussed in the last few years I've been here. So they're actually making this change rather than have the Parks and Recreation trick or trunk event kind of happen separately over by the community center. I can never remember which one started first and ended later, but basically they were two separate events. We're actually doing a combined event with the trick or trunk on Wilbercross Way, so it'll overlap. Also, that's 3 to 5 p.m. time frame. So basically, all the pre-Halloween fun will be happening in the downtown Saturday the 28th before the traditional customary trick or treating on Halloween night. So more information is available on downtownstores.org/Halloween for that. As far as new businesses in the downtown, I know we put out information, and the partnerships put out information on this already. But as far as Square Peg Pizzeria, which is going in the former Geno's space, Hot Haven Chicken, which will be going into the old Wingstop space, those two, it's still expected will be opening later this month. When exactly, I don't think is known, but before the end of October. Square Peg Pizzeria and Hot Haven Hot Chicken are expected to open up. And then Pliables, that would be going in the former 7-Eleven space. They've indicated that they still plan to open in November. So that'll be exciting and a shot in the arm for downtown businesses and our public that like to dine in the downtown area. And then lastly, I think this was touched on maybe in a previous meeting. I know we talked about it at a recent council meeting. But under the auspices of the Economic Development Commission, the town's pursuing the idea, and I want to emphasize we are just pursuing an idea at this point of creating a cultural district in Mansfield. It could be one or more districts. These are sort of geographically defined areas or subset of the town. And so this involves support from Yukon and support from the Southeast Northeast Cultural Coalition. Basically, the council at a recent meeting that I alluded to has supported the concept of further exploration of this. So basically, probably during the month of November, with the help from the Cultural Coalition, a series of community listening sessions, stakeholder meetings will be organized to get both educate the public about what this opportunity is, as well as hear from the public about their sort of initial take on whether or not this is something they want to see happen. So I believe right now, cultural districts are unique or a new phenomenon. I think they've only been around since 2019, and there are only 5 thus far. And they are located in the towns of Ridgefield, Torrington, New London, Wethersfield, and Bristol. And so basically the impetus for this is it's a way for us to promote and encourage artists, entrepreneurs, creative businesses. We want to promote our tourism, arts related and otherwise, in the town of Mansfield, and basically play up our culture and our local history in Mansfield that we think we have a fair amount of. So that's I think everything Cynthia would probably want me to touch on.
Thank you. Questions regarding the downtown? I also want to thank everybody who participated. It was a touch and go day, but there were many people who were saying it was better for it to be cool than to be blazing hot, as it has been some years. And we also have added the crafts and for sale sections, and I think they were very well attended, and there were some lovely things there. Any questions on this issue? Comments? All right, we'll move on to UConn construction updates. I think that's you, Sean. Or?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon again, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share the construction map. While I'm doing that, bear with me one second. While I'm doing that, I'll give a brief update on the School of Nursing project that we discussed briefly at our last meeting. I think at that point, we were still in the scoping notice phase for that project under SEPA. The town requested a few additional days to get their comments, and we did receive those comments, and we have 6 months now to go ahead and publish the post-scoping notice and determination of next steps. We're going to let we are still bringing the design team on board and kicking off the design process. So I don't anticipate we'll have responses to comments and the post-scoping notice published until likely late November at the earliest. Now on to the construction map. Okay, so the majority of our work continues to be mostly contained in the area of South Campus, with the residence hall and dining facility project, as well as the related and other campus improvements to infrastructure. The road closures are still the same around the periphery. However, there's additional restrictions that have occurred more recently on Gilbert Road, and we'll see those restrictions on Gilbert right through the spring semester next year. We sent notice to the town traffic authority as well as the regional school district about the utility crossing that was planned to start a couple of weeks ago across 195. We did work with the contractor and DOT to move all of the daytime activities to nighttime activities. And of course, the first day that they started construction, they found an unforeseen utility. So they had to change the routing. They've done that. They've redesigned things, and they're scheduled to start that 1 week of overnight work next week. The water main break on 195 today had nothing to do with a construction project. That was a maintenance issue. And I believe that has since been corrected, maybe in the past couple of hours. That has been fixed. I just want to briefly look ahead a little bit now and show you what I mentioned, the spring semester. so when I toggle the fall semester off and look at spring, you see that the South Campus construction is more or less the same footprint. The road closures become a little less, but Gilbert Road will continue to be closed. That I'll toggle spring off and turn summer on. Right now, because of the way the utility project is going and the weather that's been encountered the past couple of months, it may linger through the summer of 2024 as well. We're still anticipating the residence hall online for the fall 2024 semester. And you see that there. We may still be doing some work behind the new residence hall in South Campus in Lot S. And then the new addition, because the schedule's becoming a little better known now as we wrap up the design and permitting phases of the Mirror Lake redesign project, that is currently tracking to break ground sometime around by early August of 2024. If we can get permits in line before that, we'll have everything we need to get started sooner, but there's at least one permit from the Corps that could hold us up a little bit and force us not to start until the end of the summer. As a reminder to those that don't know, when the budget was cut on the Mirror Lake Improvements Project, it became primarily a safety and compliance project focused almost entirely on the dam and spillway. So that's where the majority of the work will occur. There will not be any dredging of the lake itself at this time. Mayor, I'm happy to address any questions.
Sean,
Does the demolition of the Whitney House have any impact on your work on Mirror Lake?
No, right now their schedules are separate as well as their scope of work.
Okay, Ryan?
I know, as you were just saying, Sean, right now, the scope of the Mirror Lake project, it's not what it originally was, and it's mostly going to be a dam, sort of safety improvement project. But to the extent that in the future the dredging piece may be revisited, and assuming that it would follow with whatever the plans had been, just because I'm not that familiar with the current depth of Mirror Lake, I'm just curious if you could give a few technical specifications, I guess, for what kind of depth it has versus what you were trying to achieve with the dredging.
Yeah, so I guess first and foremost, the dredging aspect of the project is purely a qualitative improvement. It's not required of deep to do it in the same sense that the safety and compliance issues were necessary. The depth measures at any given time because there's a lot of sediment that moves around in the lake based on water circulation, input, output. Even the fountains, when they were live, tend to generate deeper pockets, but on average it's between 2 and 6 feet to get from the water surface to the top of what we call the muck or the organic layer. The improvement plans were going to get all of that organic, do a hydraulic dredge of all of the soft sediment out of the lake, and then create some deeper pockets in the glacial till by mechanical dredge to make it a little more environmentally or ecologically sound long term. And then the addition of some treatment forebays between the point of discharge into the lake was going to isolate the maintenance to be around the perimeter of the lake and not the lake itself in the future. So that's all work that can proceed when funding becomes available.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Brian? I'm so used to calling people by their last names because of the formality of town council. I'm really stumbling here. Sorry. Brian?
Okay. Sean, I would definitely support, the dredging of Mirror Lake and improvement of that body of water. Dams have safety ratings what is the safety rating of the dam at Mirror Lake present?
Yeah, it just got reclassified. I believe it was earlier this year to a hazard class C, if I remember right. Went from a B to a C. That hazard class is entirely related to the downstream location of 195 being a state highway. And if there was catastrophic failure of the dam, it becomes a excuse me, a life safety issue of all the properties and the state highway downstream of it.
Okay,
It's not a rating of the condition of the dam, it's a rating of if it broke, what would happen?
Yeah, there's certain criteria. The dam, there's issues with the spillway that are safety issues. We've already temporarily repaired it. Those repairs were good for anywhere between 3 and 5 years, we were told. So we're getting close to that. It needs to be addressed. From a compliance standpoint, the berm, if you will, component of the dam, it does not have enough freeboard required of major storm events. And those standards have become a little more stringent. It used to be primarily related to, or entirely related to, a 100-year storm. Now we have 500,000-year storm events that need to be taken into consideration. So, I should say that how we're dealing with the freeboard aspect of the project now is we're also addressing previous development in its watershed. There was a lot of development over a couple of decades in Mirror Lake's watershed without any work to the dam. So it takes care of, I think, as much as 2.5 decades of development in the amount of freeboard. The dam's basically going to be raised about 2.5 feet from its current elevation.
so that'll add depth to the pond, to the lake, correct? If you add 2 feet?
No, it's the spillway that will control the elevation of the dam, which actually is only, I think it ended up being just shy of 1 inch compared to what it is today. But it's a very large body of water. So I forget how many acres it is, but that 1 inch spread across that area is a significant amount of volume.
Okay, there's nothing imminent here, right? I know we've had a lot of precipitation, but there's no immediate danger whatsoever.
No, but we do have our colleagues in university safety patrol the area whenever there's a significant rain event.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on this topic? All right, thank you. We'll move on to campus updates. In your packet, you see the letter that the town council authorized me to send to the president. Since that authorization, you know that the Daily Campus, following up on that council meeting, published a lengthy article in which they interviewed Dale Rose as a member of this committee. They did not contact me, and I know they contacted the town manager because he was quoted at one point. But following that article, I have had interviews with WFSB and earlier today with WTIC. In every case, I have emphasized that our primary concern is the safety of students, and that it is extremely important to Mansfield that we have a productive and regular and strong relationship with the university. This is not intended as an attack. It's just that as an elected official, it is absolutely obligatory for me to respond to concerns from my constituents and members of the community. And we have been hearing very significant concerns, and it was necessary for us to respond in a way that was public and available. So I know that some of this has caused some distress on campus. It was intended, from my perspective, to indicate to those decision makers that perhaps they had not understood the full consequence of this particular action, that they had not appreciated the very significant role that the soft touches and that were used by the Office of Off-Campus Housing was able to exert, and the real safety and and residential quality of life issues that were part of that project. I have not heard anything personally from the university since that time. I don't know. I think Mr. Aylesworth may have had some conversations, but I do want to say again that our intention has been to indicate our concern about the safety of our neighborhoods, and the fact that I'm sure that the university shares these concerns with us. So with that, Kara and John, do you want to
So I had,
present a report?
that was not what my updates were. I guess.
Okay, well, I just went,
I
this is the
guess-
only place on the agenda I could figure that this would work, so.
Unless, unless Nathan, you do want to speak to it, or John.
Mayor, I can, and Kara, I can speak on a few points, and I think it's important that some clarification is warranted based on the announcement I made at the Town University Relations Committee meeting in August. And just to clarify that there are a number of aspects of the former department and outreach that is still being done. In particular, the off-campus housing website has continued to serve all of our students on all of our campus. It's been in existence since 2005. I can tell you very clearly that if a complaint or referral is made to the university, I would be one that would be contacted to say, what should we do? And part of that outreach would be outreach that I'm still continuing to do at this point. As a matter of fact, a number of colleagues have made outreach to me, and I've been working with students that are currently living off campus, not only for behavioral issues, but also for issues they're facing with lease issues, with challenges they're facing in their personal life that's impacting their ability to pay their rent. So those issues are still coming to me, and I'm still working to resolve each and every one of them. So I think the important piece here is to think that we have not just completely lifted the veil and relinquished all abilities to engage with students that are living off campus. We are. If an issue comes to the graduate school, to the Dean of Students office, I am being consulted on what those issues are and helping to resolve them. Additionally, referrals to the university, nothing has changed there. So the referrals to the university are done in two very unique ways. UConn created an inform.uconn.edu website in 2019-2020. It's a way that captures all of the referring mechanisms that can be made to the university, and also the Office of Community Standards receives referrals. Sergeant Merrill and I met last week and talked about that those referrals still should be sent to UConn. Those are sent directly to the Office of Community Standards with a copy to me so that I can look, monitor, and decide if there is a need for intervention. Additionally, as we go through looking at ways to help students engage with properties, specifically the new properties that are coming online, the off-campus housing fair, which has been in place for a number of years, is still happening. The next one's scheduled for November 9th from 10 to 2. So looking at the totality of information that in areas that we were engaged with, I was specifically engaged in, we are still doing many facets of those and currently looking at what a new model will look like. So to think about what the model was we had prior and then moving forward, that model without question will need to include many aspects that we were looking at before and were part of the process that we engaged in through off-campus and commuter student services with the team that we had that did the work we did.
Just want to make a comment. For purely personal reasons, I needed to reopen an apartment listing, and it was supposed to be approved in 2 days. It took more than a week, and the final approval came through at 9:30 on Sunday morning, which tells me that whoever is doing this work is working Sunday mornings, which does not strike me as businesslike or indicative that there's enough staff being devoted to this purpose. Also, John, I'm very appreciative of what you've said. However, it's very confusing. I would like very much to see a written list of phone numbers and purposes and who to call under what circumstance. I don't know that people, it was easy to say call off-campus housing because that was one number, one office. But you're now saying that there are multiple places and multiple offices. And if you could put it on paper in some way that we could distribute and use, it would be extremely helpful. I saw Mr. Ailes, go ahead, John.
Mayor, I was just going to say that in part of what is still happening is that I am still available to do some of this work and still doing it. Approvals are still being done by me. So you're right. We need to define something. I see Nathan's hands up and Ryan's hands up as well.
Yeah, so I saw Ryan's first and then Nathan. So Ryan?
There's a good chance, reasonable chance that something Nathan's about to say might answer the question or comment I have. So I'll yield to him first.
Nathan?
Man, if I'm lucky.
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you. If I'm lucky, that'll be the case. I don't know. I'll just first suggest that, the way that we got here was a result of a significant reorganization that not only involved John's position, but also involved the Division of Student Affairs as a whole, which actually was eliminated as a part of a reorganization. And part of those areas were consolidated with areas that now I oversee. Formerly, I was just the Vice President for Enrollment. Now I'm the Vice President for Student Life and Enrollment. And other areas were moved to the Provost office. And what I believe happened as a part of that transition is our communication has not been very clear with you all. And so to that end, I'm glad that I'm here and I'm glad that I can hear what your concerns are and in particular, ensure that we improve our communication with you all going forward. Some of these things remain to be hammered out. And so again, I'm glad to hear from you all in terms of where your concerns lie. Let me just suggest that rather than having a long list of contacts, that our goal is to have a contact for you all, similar to what we had in the past. I think it's not reasonable on your part, nor ours for that matter, to have a list of contacts for us to coordinate activity that way. John, and I think everybody here knows John well. We love John for all the really good work that he does. He's taken on this new role of care and concern. He's going to stick with us as we make this transition because that's important. He's a familiar face. He knows where all the ins and the outs are, and we're going to put in place a plan that's going to allow us all to be satisfied moving forward. In fact, our next conversation is tomorrow with Provost DeLeyva and myself. So there's a little bit more work to do. That doesn't mean that we have all the answers today. There's an acknowledgement on my part as well as the provost that some of the communication that should have occurred didn't as a part of some of these other moving reorganizations. But we're determined to get this right. And I in particular, as a resident of the town, perhaps my incentive is higher, I don't know. But I really think it's important that we get this right. I run on the roads in the morning. I get to run past the residents where a lot of our students are living off campus. So I have eyes on some of these places firsthand, basically every other day. So I'm glad to be here and glad to be given the charge to help map out the path going forward. So not that there won't be bumps in the road, but we're going to work to try and get it right.
Ryan, do you want to follow
Yeah,
up?
so actually, you sold yourself a little short because you actually did address the primary thing I was going to bring up, which was from our standpoint, recognizing that UConn's a large institution and there's a lot of people with hands in different things, having a singular point of contact for off-campus student life the way we've had with John, which sounds like that's the way you're thinking. So definitely wanted to say, if we had our druthers, I think that's definitely the way to go. And it sounds like that's your thinking, which is encouraging. And then the only other thing I was just going to say, I think this came across in what the mayor was saying earlier, but maybe just to kind of reemphasize it. We understand, we've been told that a lot of this is being driven, or all of it was being driven perhaps by budgetary constraints and adjusting to new budgetary realities. We understand that, the landscape for UConn has changed on that front, especially with the last budget cycle and legislative session. So we're not unempathetic, I guess, if that's the right word, to that. We just really, truly, genuinely believe that this particular program, or a program like it, recognizing that it may be, take on a different manifestation, but the level of support that can only really come from human beings doing a job the way John and his team did. Don't care how great a website you have or how much traffic it gets. That's helpful. It's definitely a resource, and appreciate you trying to update that and make sure it's the best tool you can as far as website goes. But definitely from where I sit, you need human beings, whatever titles they have, whatever office they're within, but actual human beings you can turn to, and just really appreciate, you're owning that some of the communication around this fell maybe short of our hopes or expectations, I think, collectively, and really will be interested and eager to see what the thinking is as you have a chance to flesh out other ideas. And certainly if perhaps before you finalize anything, if you want to use the town as a sounding board to say, this is what we're thinking, how do you think this will work? I think we would appreciate that opportunity.
Greatly.
Hmm.
Because I'm not always certain that people who are in the administration at the university are fully aware of the impact that this office has had on the community, and not just on students, but on landlords and also on the state police. I mean, it's been a very wide-ranging collaboration that's been effective. My other concern is it has been effective in the past, but the population of students living in the community changes every year, every single year. The likelihood that an undergraduate student remains in off-campus housing for more than 2 years is very small. So it's a problem that you can't solve once. You have to continually solve it every single year again. And we will be happy to collaborate with you in any way that we can. Dale, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, just something coming off of what you've said, Mayor, is that about the safety for students. Didn't call the police about this, but my neighbors and I were very concerned when there were a lot of young students walking down Birchwood Heights, one throwing up and just staggering from, I'm assuming, drinking at 44, and didn't know what to do about that. I mean, didn't know, who do you call, or what? That was a new issue for us.
And it is characteristic of the problem we have with call the police, because if there's no law being broken, sometimes the police just come by and say, stop it, and then they leave, and it provides no assistance whatsoever. So,
I mean,
please.
My general reaction, I'm not sure of the exact details, Dale. First of all, good to see you again. I haven't seen you in a long time. But my general reaction to that is that you should call the police.
Okay.
I'm not just concerned about behavior, but I'm concerned about their safety too. And if somebody is struggling making their way down the road, I worry that doing it otherwise might potentially put that individual, or we just have to make sure that we've done our due diligence, and that I would tell my neighbors the same. I would do the same myself. I think that calling the police is the right thing to do. And then our other communication avenues open up. If a ticket is issued, maybe for public intoxication or whatever the case may be, I don't know what that is. We would want to handle it and respond. And the good things that John has done checking in with students would enact. And the other thing there is that it's not a foregone conclusion that this isn't a student that actually resides on campus, that walked to that location from on campus and is now returning or attempting to return to their residence hall. So for a variety of reasons, I would just suggest calling the police.
Yeah, I just, that's why I said student, because I knew that, I was pretty certain they were students because of the events that happened at 44 Birchwood Heights. And there were a number, it was maybe about 5, 6, 7 people trying to help each other, stumbling. Then, as I said, what happened, and you're going like, at what point do you intercede or not intercede? And okay, about calling the police. I have just one other issue that I did bring up at the town council is that, and this is coming from other neighbors, when we've had a problem, they've called the police, and either the renters have a app so that they know that they have a scanner, they know when the police are coming, and suddenly everything disappears. The music goes down, the lights are down, everyone's hiding inside. And is there a way to, when you're calling the police, say, please don't, I don't know how they can send someone out without it becoming something on their scanner?
Is Sergeant Merrill still available?
I was looking at the, I think that's, yeah, it looks like he's come
I
up.
still, well, yes.
I don't know if you've heard that question, Sergeant Merrill. The question is that sometimes these groups of students have some sort of scanner that alerts them that the police are coming, and that they then hide and wait until you're there and you don't find anything, and then after you've gone, the party resumes.
Well, I mean, anything's possible, but typically that's not how we respond. We do get dispatched to it from a phone call from citizens saying they're concerned about a party, they're concerned about XYZ. We respond, we talk to the renters, we go into the house, we look inside the house, we check to make sure that everything's safe there, and typically we'll disperse the party. It's atypical that they will continue after we have gone there. And if they do, it's typically not as loud, or they keep it inside, or they turn everything down. There are rare occasions where we have had to return, but that has not happened very often this year.
But this is an important point, because I think part of what Dale was suggesting, or what he believes might be the case, is if the individual is involved in whatever the activity is that's concerning, I think the call originated for that, basically, if by all outward appearances, the house is quiet and there's no party going on, that they kind of skate by. And then I know, I think better than this, I think you just touched on it, but I want you to say, for the benefit of this meeting, Sergeant, that even if it appears to be a quiet scene when you arrive, as part of your due diligence, you're gonna check the house, and you're gonna kind of comb it top to bottom.
Yeah, exactly, Ryan. That's every call we do the same thing. And especially if we've been there prior, we've been to 44 in particular, and we have gone inside. I have spoken to them directly myself, so I have been there this year. And every party call that we get called to, we do the same exact thing. We identify renters, we explain the gravity of tickets, arrests, and reporting to UConn. And we go over it to every call that we go to for a disturbance in Mansfield. And it does not matter how quiet they are when we get there. What matters is that we receive the call, we address the problem, we approach the renters, we explain the consequences, and that is every single call. But one of the biggest issues we do have is we do not get some of these calls, and the perception is that we are not doing something about it. However, we can't read people's minds, and we're not all around town, and we can't anticipate where everything is in town. We do need the assistance of the public to notify us, let us know, and then we can address the issues.
If I may add something, as a landlord, with experience as a landlord, has this landlord at 44 been contacted, or cooperating at all?
John can answer that, I believe.
Brian, the answer is yes. So I spoke with the landlord multiple times last academic year, met with them, talked with them. Typical procedure for me when I was in this role was to make outreach to the landlord, talk with them, and let them know what types of disturbances or complaints we received from that property. My ultimate goal is to have a meeting with the landlord and the tenants together. So in this case, there was outreach to students last year. As the mayor indicated earlier, without question, probably these students are new students living in this home. And, one of the processes that I would be involved myself in is identifying, are they part of an organization, and then ultimately try to work with the organization as a whole to talk with them about how their behaviors disrupting community members around them. So the
Thanks,
answer
John.
is yes.
It's very
Last
important
year
to
there was
keep the
contact.
landlord in the loop. It's very important to keep the landlord in the loop, and I wouldn't want that behavior in any one of my houses. Thank you.
Agreed. And I will say, Brian, to that point, in some of the most challenging situations where there are perpetual problems at rentals, those landlords will not engage with me or sometimes not even the state police.
John, at one point you were monitoring Facebook for party calls and you were on organizational things. Did you continue to do that? And has your office been able to do that in the recent past?
So the challenge with social media, initially when our office was founded all the way up through 2015, 16, 17, social media was a little easier to review, monitor, check. What students are doing now is when they have communications that are areas that they do not want as defined as public, they create accounts that are not visible, that we cannot see and cannot completely connect to them. So it's a little bit harder to monitor social media. That's something that we do in a number of different arenas, including my current role. And it's becoming harder and harder to monitor social media accounts because there's so many fake accounts that are created.
Oh. All right. Any further questions on campus updates?
Mayor, there's a few things I can provide in addition to the topic we're talking about now. And I think there's some really positive things happening on campus. One, we've already had one open house that's occurred this past Sunday. We have another one scheduled for Saturday, October 28th. That's an open house for prospective students. UConn's first night is occurring this Saturday. So that's in Gamble Pavilion. That kicks off the UConn basketball season. And then I can say the current students are currently in midterm exams, and that will continue through October, the end of October. So those are a few things that are happening. The semester break will conclude, well, Thanksgiving break will occur during November 19th through the 25th. And then the off-campus housing fair occurs on Thursday, November 9th from 10 to 2. Just a few things that are happening campus-wide.
Thank you. Have you worked at Cara? Has there been a connection with the Downtown Partnership to make sure that people coming onto campus are aware of the dining and other opportunities downtown, off campus?
I'm not directly engaged in those events, so but typically we promote the downtown website when we're doing all of these major events.
Great. Well, I have one more announcement on this score. Denise Merrill and I have been asked to teach a course in state and local government next spring. And so we will be sharing our combined institutional memory with students on campus on Wednesday from 4 to 6:30. So it's been a long time since I've taught, but I'm looking forward to it. And she's very excited about the prospect.
I did want to just mention one additional event happening on Wednesday, October 25th, which is the Dodd Prize event, which many of you probably have attended previously. This is the first year we've done it post-COVID, and it's being held at 4 p.m. at Jorgensen, and Babin Yar Holocaust Museum in Kyiv, Ukraine, is the recipient of the prize this year. In addition to the prize on the 25th, there is 2 days of a human rights summit happening at the Dodd Center on the 26th and the 27th. There'll be a panel just on Ukraine. There's a global democracy panel. The gentleman who was a former Capitol Police officer who just came out with a book is also speaking at the event on those 2 days. So please take a look at that website. All of these events are open to the public and free as well.
All right. the next item is future agenda items. We will have to take a look at the memorandum of agreement between the town and the university at our next meeting.
Yeah,
We-
I had a question actually about that. So should we have a subcommittee to review the MOU? I mean, it hasn't been looked at, I think. Gosh, I don't even know when the last time.
Yeah, I assumed that there would be a staff meeting to discuss any changes that were necessary.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the process was, so we'll do that first and then make recommendations. Is
Makes
that-
sense to me.
Sure, so it would be Ryan and Kara and who else, Ryan, from the town side? One other?
Yeah, staff to be named later.
Yeah,
Okay.
same with me.
All right, so no more than 4 people to look over this and make a recommendation back to us.
I think that'll work. We can expand if it appears necessary.
Okay. Then the next thing on our agenda is a motion to adjourn. Do I see such a motion?
Right here, motion to adjourn.
Brian moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Susanna seconds. All those in favor of adjourning, raise your hands. Bye. Thank you. Thank you all for being here and thank you for the work you do, wherever you do it.
Thanks, Mayor.